Did Julius Caesar get himself killed on purpose, just for the thrill of it? This is a sensation I'm getting from the stories of people who died similarly. It's always someone famous that dies prematurely or violently before their actual time, and at a point where they virtually reached the top. In Caesar's case, he has practically, if not nominally, become the first emperor of the Roman Empire through coming on top of power struggles, through huge conquests and basically genocide. All the reins of the Roman government came right down into his hands, and he became that vile, disgusting, taboo word that the Romans so much feared: king. He literally took from the Romans the one thing that they did not want to give, them being ruled by one single monarch. And isn't that a historical achievement? In modern terms, this would be like the equivalent of taking a well known country and turning its paradigm onto its head. For example, imagine if some socialist president took over the US and then turned the US completely communist. This is what Caesar did to his own country and world, and he literally managed to turn history on its head. Once you've achieved that, what else is there to do with your life? And you can kind of see he felt that way, because once he achieved this, he didn't just let it all rest and enjoy his success. Instead, he started dabbling in like grammar and trying to improve the fucking Roman calendar and expanding the city square with some new spaces and temples and improving the city infrastructure so that the traffic at night wasn't that deadly. To a megalomaniacal conqueror and a political shark like Julius Caesar, all of this must have seemed like a stupid game of Monopoly. It's as if James Cameron won all the Oscars for Titanic and then went on to scrub windows. And if you've been a long time megalomaniac who is used to sitting on top of the world and who's built his personality via this mechanism, always and forever chasing after the most extreme goals and risking everything in order to achieve them, once your brain and way of thinking and existing have become fully intertwined with this phenomenon, you can never put a stop to it. You can never go back, and even if you could somehow, you just no longer want to. Nothing else in life now seems worth it. Nothing gives you this kind of extreme pleasure and fulfillment except for conquering and shifting the world even further. And in Caesar's case, what else was there to do? Just like a day or so after he was killed, he was supposed to go on a campaign in the Middle East and conquer Persia or something. At this point, what would that be to him? Given that he's already a monarch, and the monarch of the most powerful country in the known world at that, and it would have been just the next campaign for him, the same piece of pie over and over. And so he must have felt this sense of nowhere else to go, nothing else of significance to do. He was seeking it for sure, but he didn't know where to find it any longer. And so on the 15th of March, in the year 44 BCE, he was supposed to go to a Senate meeting. And at first, he wasn't thinking of going. And his wife had some premonitions of bad things to happen, warning him and stuff, and he ignored her. And not only ignored her, but actually then decided he was going to go to the Senate meeting after all. And then a slave tried to hand him a note, which said there's a conspiracy against him, which did not reach him. I'm not sure if this is because he ignored the slave as well or not, but he must have known there was something going on. There were rumors all over the place about a plot brewing, and also before the Senate meeting, that same day, he went to a soothsayer who told him to beware the Ides of March, which was this same day, March 15th. And at the time of them speaking, I think it was sometime around the late morning, and Caesar told the priest, well, there you go, the day has come and nothing's happened. And the priest was like, yeah, the day has come, but it's still not past. And Caesar was like, whatever, I'm the Pontifex Maximus, basically the Pope of ancient Rome. Or whatever the hell do you know better about the future than I do? And he ignored the priest as well, and continued on to the Senate meeting, whereupon his entering the meeting, the conspirators gathered around him and stabbed him to death. So, given he kind of knew there was a possibility of this happening, and given there were so many people warning him about it, and given that all this made him want to go to the meeting even more. Doesn't it feel like he went there for the thrill of it? It's as if he was bored to death and was giddy that there was a conspiracy brewing around him, and he wanted to test it out. And given how we've defined this type of personality, maybe he was aware on some level that his killing, if it actually occurred, would forever crystallize his name in world history. Because we humans are so insane, we tend to iconize famous people who die unnaturally and prematurely. I've had this same feeling with, for example, Marilyn Monroe. She was basically unusually famous for her time, more or less like an internet icon before the internet existed. She had hit the peak of her life and was even kind of starting to fade because she was getting close to 40 and getting fired and stuff. And her official cause of death was probable suicide, which I'm more inclined to think was just an accidental overdose. But at this point, I'm also not excluding suicide. Because actually, before she died, this wasn't her first overdose. She was known to have done it before, and done it in such a way as to attract attention to herself. Swallowing the pills, and then just when she's starting to go, she calls her friends for help, who run over and bring her back. If I'm not mistaken, she did this like twice. And then the third time, when she did it again, people just didn't arrive on time. So, in a way, it's kind of like this kind of person, once their achievements have passed and they have nothing much else to achieve, they start perceiving death as something of an exciting thrill, a new limit for them to conquer, plus the gaining of the iconic status of a dead legend.